Today's Daily Dose of Math is how to draw a broken line graph. Now this question is not actually specifically asking for a broken line graph. It's asking for an appropriate graph. But I like doing the broken line in this situation, partly because of one hint I see in the data that I'm given, which is here we have the days of the week. Time, it's one of the ways in which we can be given data that goes across a period of time. Broken line graphs have a tendency to work well with time on the x-axis. So I'm going to draw a broken line graph in this case, and I'm asked to give three conclusions, to use the graph to draw three conclusions about the data. First thing I'm doing is I am drawing my axes, and I'm labeling them as x and y axes, which I usually do with graphs, and I'm going to scale them. Now I need the days of the week down here, so I'm just dividing it into 7 equal pieces, and I'm labeling it. But I also have to label the axis as a whole, so I'll just call it day. The y-axis, I'm choosing my numbers based on the numbers that are in the data. I can see that the biggest number I have here is 25. The smallest number is 16. I just want to make sure those numbers fit. So the way I'm choosing to do that is to divide my axis like this and label it 10, 20, and 30. All of the numbers will fit. And it is a time, because what this data is times done by 2 runners as they're training across a week. For instance, a 5K race. They're pretty good runners with these times if it's 5K. So this is going to be time in minutes. And I label it as such. And I need a title for the graph, so I'm going to just call it 5K race. Any title that makes sense. Don't forget the title because it will be worth a mark. The labeling of the axes, also worth marks. The scaling of the axes in a way that makes sense, worth marks. Okay, so the broken line graph, we need to get the data on the graph, and we're going to put dots. For A, I'm going to do A first. Monday, A got 25 minutes. Tuesday was 23 minutes. Wednesday was 21 minutes. I know this will look a little crooked, but that's because it's hard to get the phone to be perfectly flat with respect to the chalkboard. Thursday is 19 minutes, so we've dipped below 20 here. Friday is 18. Lower. Saturday and Sunday are also 18. And then we connect all of these dots, but we don't do it with a curve, we do it with a series of lines. That's why it's called the broken line graph. And I'll put an A here to show that this is the data for A. Now this doesn't really show off the broken line graph very well because the data isn't changing very much. But with B we have a little bit more variation. For B I'll use a different color of chalk. But you can do this in many different ways. If you're in an exam you can use different colors of ink or use pencil for one and pen for the other. But it's important to label which one goes with which on the graph so that the person reading the graph can read it more easily. So B's first number is 16, then 17 and then a 16, 18 and 21, then 24, and then down to 20. And I connect the dots with lines This time we get to see a more typical broken line shape because the angles of the lines keep changing. And we label this as B. Okay, the graph is now finished. It has all of the components that you need to earn marks if this is an exam question, but we have to give the 3 conclusions. I'll go back to the white chalk for that. And any conclusions will do, and in the way it's graded in the course I teach, you can give more than 3, because I'm looking for 3 good conclusions. So I'll take the 3 best and I'll grade those. So conclusions aren't difficult to come up with, but they have to match the data. So for instance, I can see that B's best day was Saturday. A's best day, no, okay, I'm going to fix that. Remembering that in a race, a smaller time is better. So B's worst day was Saturday. A second conclusion, A's worst day was Monday. And a third conclusion, B was better in the first half of the week This is not good quality chalk. I'm finished with that piece. Okay, so I have 3 perfectly good conclusions, but there are others you can draw. So that's how you can see that it's possible to come up with more than 3. Simply, you have to look at the data and analyze it. Notice how I'm looking at the graph when I do that. The truth is, of course, I could have come up with these conclusions just by looking at the table of data that I was given with at the beginning. But the question wants me to use the graph. And it's true that it's a little easier to see things on the graph than it is in the table. That's why we make graphs. That is today's Daily Dose of Math. Please like, subscribe, and share.